Years trained on that. No, don't matter. The spelling, nobody cares about it anymore. Generation instructions, we care less about it. Phone. About 6% of people pick up their phone now. So get good at leaving good voicemails in the profession of selling. And really, your voicemail should simply be what? All it is an advertisement to read the damn email, open the sucker up, and reply to me. It's really all you're leaving voicemails for. Hey, sent you an email a couple of hours ago, based on blank. Please, sometime today, open it up, have a look, reply, and let me know if that's a good date and time to meet. All phone email voicemails are advertorials now for email, because everybody would prefer their communication being on what? Email. New generation we live in. We gotta adapt. Anybody see Moneyball? The movie Moneyball, by show of hands. He's in there spitting, like Brad Pitt, the old bunch of old curmudgeons in a row. He's like, well, adapt or die. Adapt or die. It's this too. Adapt or die. It's a whole new world. Right? Next, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn have to be savvy, have to be smart, have to be unique in the way you use those tools. They can be incredibly prosperous. I was speaking to a woman on the way up. We're thinking about sharing leads to each other. She says, I'm getting like a 40% win rate on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, people that want to meet me, it's off the charts. See, again, I wasn't trained on this 2, 3, there was just, these tools were just getting full. Adapt or die. Right? And then that's just a short list of them. Then you got all the rest of them that you can gain advantage out of. You have to be expert at email, a little bit of phone, and then master the digital and the networking social skills. Anybody any questions on that? 4, closing for meetings. Oh, this is just, I have such a sweet spot for this. This is the sale. This is the most excited you should get in this profession. When you get a meeting, it's the only time you can put 2 dashes for too many wins. Double fist pump, mini win. Score a meeting. Which means I just got somebody's most precious commodity, which is, again, their score a meeting. Shoots and scores. The meeting is the same. I take all the pressure off my close rate. Thus, all the pressure off my clients and prospects when I have a boatload of meetings, because I don't care, I got all kinds of meetings. What ends up happening to some salespeople, though, they don't become meeting maniacs, which they need to be. And so then they go to a meeting, they've looked at their calendar like, I don't have another meeting until next Tuesday. And guess who ends up feeling all the pressure of that sales call? The meeting is the sale. I cannot emphasize that to you enough. If you took one learning moment from tonight, that the meeting is be an expert at scoring meetings. And the #1 way to close for a meeting, it is about the only technique I teach which gets you into the success business versus the failure business, is when you send an email to somebody or just meet somebody or over the phone, whatever, and you, early in that introduction, you reference somebody they already know, like, and trust. You've got about a 70% chance of getting a meeting. That is off the charts. So anybody else can teach you terrific email skills, terrific voicemail skills. Oh, great email. Look at that email. So well written. And the tone is lovely. Just lovely. If it doesn't have a referral, you got about a 20% chance. Good luck. Probably less. Right? That's going to be seen as a what kind of a call or an email? What kind of a call or email is that going to be seen as? Cold. We're all about warm emails and warm calling. Cold calling is so old the Dead Sea wasn't even sick. I think I get that right. Right, so challenge yourself for those that select this profession. Challenge challenge yourself, if I'm going to be a meeting maniac, I've got to be a networking / referral maniac. Thus, most times when I reach out to somebody new, it's only based on one of my clients giving me a referral. Wow, do I love this profession. I'm getting meetings, I'm making sales, I'm making more money than I ever thought in my wildest dreams I could make. And it's like a well-oiled machine. But if you don't get a lot of referrals, and then you end up doing a lot of cold emails and cold voicemails, you can have some long days in this profession. Right? I would argue there's no reason for that. If you're just disciplined and you know your craft, you should get a lot of home stuff. It's just a lot of discipline and having a good game down. And having what kind of a communication strategy, yet again. Questions on that? 5. If meetings is your most precious commodity, and they are, and they should be, then let's prepare for those son of a gun. Why? Because my client deserves what from me? A+. So they're giving me their time. I'm going to prepare for that meeting. Yes, here's Dr. Trusser. For every 10 meetings you have scheduled, ... Only 6 to 6.5 of those meetings are actually going to take place. The rest of them are either going to blow you off, or reschedule, or whatever. That's the way it is. Right? Don't be bothered by it. Just accept it. That's what I'm trying to do. Just liberate yourself. It is what it is. You can say people are rude or people didn't pick up. They said they were going to. It doesn't matter. Right? So we got to prepare for them. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. You can't hit a target you're not aiming at. How many other cliches will I give you? I've only given like 7. So, real quick, how do you prepare for a call? Part of our little science. You reverse engineer to prepare. Trying here. So reverse engineer to prepare. That's how you prepare for meetings at the most strategic level. That's how you develop your communication strategy, by reverse engineer to prepare. What do I want to get out of this meeting? What objections might I get? And if I get them, how am I going to negotiate them? What components of my value proposition am I going to review? What tools do I need to support that? Do I need to research? Do I need to see a case study, a testimonial, a best practice? They need to see the product working live, depending on what you sell. Right? You got to think about this stuff before the meeting. What information do I want on this client or prospect? What questions am I going to ask? Oh, I got to draft my agenda. Wasn't that one of the 5? Be open, build rapport, and do an agenda for those that are going through the competitive sales class and going to be going down to, well, just went to Bryant, then going on to Georgia. Any questions on that? Going too fast? Too much? Content overload? Who's asleep? Next, managing conversations. It's back to the whole communication strategy. And simply enough, it's just automatic that you have to supply your meetings in this profession with an agenda to increase the odds that you manage the conversation, or the client or prospect will manage it for you. And more often than not, those conversations typically don't go the way you wanted them to go. So if you want to, you got to manage a conversation to manage to an outcome. 7, asking the right questions and listening. Asking the right questions and listening might be the hardest part. It's the most obvious part, but it might be the hardest part. Even 15, 20-year veterans, I was in front of last week in Chicago and Detroit. I was taken back. This 15, 20 years each individual, which collectively there must have been 250 years of sales experience. And I held my Klickarooski up here, about 15 people in the room, and I said, who wants to switch seats with the trainer? Who wants to come up here and showcase to the other 14 peers in the room? Here are my money-making questions. Here are all the questions I've got developed that Here's why I ask them. Here's typically the answers I get. This is what I do with the, who wants to come up here and give me a scientific, literally a scientific approach to how you ask questions? What did 15 people in the room do? I said, all of a sudden I'm training to foreheads and heads. Nobody of 250 years of experience could come up and switch with the trainer. I'm not there now, I'm here. So I can be candid. That's sad. That's terrible. That nobody could come up and do that. And I've done that countless times, and I can never find anybody to come up. And trust me when I tell you, when you meet somebody, it's not because they're afraid to get in front of the room. Trust me when I tell you. Some of these folks are pretty on that, is not the issue at all. They simply don't value this part of the process. And if they do, it's just the most lame questions you could ever imagine. They're not the type of questions that need to be asked. So, those that choose this profession pay special attention to this part of the process, to this part of the top 10 list. It's hard, it is, but it's where you make your money. I repeat, it's where you make your money. For two reasons. One, you're either qualifying an opportunity to move forward, or you're disqualifying it, which either way is a great decision. Don't wait to get fired. You fire them. In other words, don't show up with wrong. Right? That's not what we want. We want to ask questions. How do you develop your questions? There's another profession out there that develops questions the same way we should. Anybody want to take a guess at what that profession is? Please. Yeah, who just said it? Lawyer. Think like a lawyer. It's the simplest thing I can tell you. When an attorney is ready to work a courtroom, how do they develop their questions? Reverse engineering. Very good. I'm a big fan of that, guys. What do you mean by that? What I'm feeling now.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
They ask questions, but they first go over what needs to be asked, I guess.
Well, no. So what's the first thing they made a decision on? What they want for an answer, right? And then the lead attorney looks at the attorney in the court and says, why? Why do you want that answer? And you justify it. I'll tell you why I want the answer. Because if they say that, and I'm like, that's great. What's your first name? Tyler. I'm like, Tyler, that's awesome. Oh, what question are you going to ask? And he says, oh, I'm just going to ask this and this. What was the easiest part of that approach? Actually coming up with that's the easiest part, is coming up with the question. I repeat, that's the easy part. The hard part, hence why nobody wants to come up to the front of the room in my training sessions of 250 years of sales experience and switch with the Klickarooski, is because the hard part is nobody thinks like an attorney, nobody thinks further. What do I just want to get my prospects and clients to say? You know what? I can get them to say anything. Here's what I want them to say. Because if they say that, that'll tie right back to my value proposition. So when I pull the curtain back on my value proposition, I can quote you, and I can paraphrase you, and I can listen the client into buying, because I asked you good questions up front. Easier said than done, but hopefully you understand the concept, right? So, listen clients into buying. The only way you can do that is you got to build rapport and trust. You have to have an honest dialogue, but the only way you can have honest dialogue is through rapport and trust building. Now, if you got into the opportunity based on a referral to begin with, what did you automatically get? See how it works? See how everything blends together? Asking questions and listening to build that trust. People will absolutely respond to their own words and ideas with far greater conviction than anyone else's. Therefore, they may not believe the statements you make, but will absolutely believe their answers to your questions. Exceptional salespeople literally listen to clients into buying or selling themselves. Questions on that? Anyone want to play devil's advocate? Next, presenting your product and service.